This is Keep the Faith Ministry News. I'm Hal Mayer. There's a problem on the transgender front. Confusion. Yes, confusion. And it's not just in the minds of the transgenders, and it's becoming more menacing. Nowadays, if you maintain the viewpoint that there are men and there are women and that the difference between them is fundamental, you're a bigot on par with racist, sexist, or homophobic. Nowadays, we must recognize gender fluid as a relevant and equal gender subset. Never mind that the vast majority of the human race accepts this binary distinction. The new bigotry is fast becoming an enforceable orthodoxy, and children and young people are facing an attitude reassignment. One feminist ideologue, Germaine Greer, said that men who become women after medical treatment were still men. Other progressives attacked her for making such a politically incorrect statement. Some think that transgender people have been failed, not that their sex change surgery was a failure, but that the society won't shake its objective evidence criteria for determining what gender they are. They should be able to switch back and forth at will, I suppose. And in some places like Ireland, Malta, Argentina, and Denmark, all you have to do is fill out a self-declaration form. Gender has become irrelevant, according to British Tory MP Maria Miller. We should be looking at ways to try to strip back talking about gender. Yet the political class is obsessed with gender issues and can't stop talking about them. Britain has even made gender reassignment a protected characteristic in the Equality Act, and the National Health Service has a national clinical reference group for gender identity services. And on Transgender Day of Remembrance, the Department of Education flew the transgender flag. Perhaps we're all supposed to be gender fluid now, but gender is not fluid, it is factual. What is fluid is the language used to deconstruct traditional forms of gender identity. Gender identity comes from a complex relationship between biological sex and behavior. There's no getting around it. Nevertheless, ideology rules these days. Gender identity is a social construct, not a biological fact among transgender proponents. But those who feel trapped in the wrong gender are confused. Surgery may not resolve this confusion. Many who change sex still don't feel comfortable. Tragically, some even commit suicide. And to those who are desperate to make a gender change, gender is not irrelevant. It is all-consuming in importance. The new gender politics holds that any evidence of difference is a form of prejudice. If people want to identify with either gender or none, no one is allowed to gainsay it. Objective reality crumbles under the supremacy of subjective desire. In fact, gender fluidity itself creates victims. Professor Paul McHugh is the former chief psychiatrist at Johns Hopkins Hospital in the U.S. Most young boys and girls who seek sex reassignment, McHugh has written, have psychosocial issues and presume that such treatment will resolve them. The grim fact is that most of these youngsters do not find therapists willing to assess and guide them in ways that permit them to work out their conflicts and correct their assumptions. Rather, they and their families find only gender counselors who encourage them in their sexual misassumptions. Any doctor who may look into the psychological history of a transgendered boy or girl in search of a resolvable problem could lose his or her license to practice medicine in some places. Whatever happened to medical freedom? After all, half of young and a third of adult transgender people say they have attempted suicide in Britain alone. But Britain's establishment blames the so-called transphobia of others in their society for pushing them into deep depression and uses it to justify state-mandated coercion. Trans and gender issues, they say, should be taught in schools as part of personal, social, and health education. We can all predict what will happen. Gender fluidity will be actively promoted as just another lifestyle choice, and any differentiation in value between behavior or attitudes is bigoted and prohibited. They must wipe gender from a child's mind as well as any notion of gender norms. And though most children grow out of any gender confusion they may experience, the establishment doesn't want that to happen. Instead of viewing it as a temporary health issue, it has become a political statement to be enforced, and gender fluidity deniers will be accused of hate crimes. The West is very much on a journey from divorce and lone parenthood to gay marriage. What was once regarded as a source of disadvantage or category error has been transformed into a human right. In the process, compassion has turned into oppression. Gender cannot be at real risk because it is anchored in an immutable reality. What is on the cards is oppression, socially engineered dysfunction, and the loss of individual freedom. Likewise also as it was in the days of Lot. But the same day that Lot went out of Sodom, it rained fire and brimstone from heaven and destroyed them all. Luke 17, 28 and 29. This is Keep the Faith Ministry News. Thank you for watching.